Hey guys, DGooden24 here. Welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to review NASCAR 21 Ignition. I know most everybody already has their reviews out, and that's fine. I am content being last to the game here, but I think it's about time. I had planned to do an entire script and match it to gameplay and everything, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to kind of give you my unfiltered thoughts here for a little while, and frankly, that's really about all that needs to be done. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So first, a little back story here. We've been waiting for a new NASCAR game essentially for 2 years. I know last year we got NASCAR Heat 5, and everyone kind of knew that NASCAR Heat 5 was just a quick tide over with updated paint schemes, just so they could continue working on this game. And at the time, we didn't really know much about it, aside from a few minor details. But we all had high expectations. We all knew that it was going to be on a new engine. So the expectations were relatively high. And we didn't really learn about this game until a few months ago. I mean, yes, we knew of it, but we didn't see any actual, I guess you could call it, gameplay until the original trailer came out. And even then, we didn't see a lot of gameplay. It was just kind of pre-rendered. Well, I don't even know if it was pre-rendered, but it just wasn't live, raw gameplay. I, myself, was very excited, and I've been excited for this game since they said it was going to be on a new engine, and they started talking about the R-Factor people, and I had got the hype up pretty high for myself, but it's just sad. So anyway, the game released, a week or two ago, and to critical, well, not acclaim, but to pander. I don't know the right word here, but it was bad. A bunch of content creators got early copies, and they all showed it off unfiltered, and it really killed all the hype that had been generated. It's just bad. So anyway, I'm going to actually get into the meat and potatoes here, and let's talk about it. So I'm going to start off first with the graphics, the probably biggest plus in this whole thing. Now, I will say I have bought this game on PC and PS5, so I will be talking about both versions. So I'm going to start here with the PC part of the graphics. I unfortunately don't have the most impressive computer in the world, but the graphics still look really, really good, and that's probably the best part of this whole game. To be honest, that's what most people say, and I have to agree. I wish I could run it on its highest settings, but I just can't, and that's sad to me. But you can tell that the graphics are amazing, and I've watched gameplay of people with it on high, and it's unbelievable. They have the graphics portion on PC down, and that's something that hopefully won't have to be touched here ever again with this series. But if you're going to consoles, for me, I have the game literally installed into my PS5, no disc, and it doesn't look good. The wheels are very, very, I guess they're like triangles or squares. I mean, that's being a little bit over-exaggerating, but the wheels don't look good. The graphics on PS5 are rough. If you look way ahead in the distance at cars, they're very grainy, and the whole thing is just grainy. The graphics aren't very good. You'll have the front of the car be all it's not really clear. It's very blurry, and it's like it's going into the track, and the graphics don't look good on consoles. Now, if we get a next-gen update, I would hope that this will be at least looking halfway decent compared to PC. You would think so. They say it's coming, but we haven't seen it yet. But when the inside, the tracks look amazing themselves, with a few minor problems here. Like Atlanta, it doesn't look like an old track. It looks like it was freshly repaved, when that's not the case. The garages, they have each garage modeled for every track, and it looks great. I mean, all of them are to a T, basically perfect modeled. They're not just a random garage area. It looks good. Most of the face scans of the drivers look pretty good. Ryan Blaney doesn't look very good, and I mean, a lot of them do look like they have bug eyes, but frankly, I think it's fine. I don't see any reason to complain about it. We don't see them for more than a few seconds at a time. I mean, a couple of them are jarring for sure, but I think they did pretty well. I think BJ even looks probably the best, to be honest. Aside from that, I mean, everything looks really sharp, aside when there are visual bugs, but we'll get into that. So let's move on next to sound. The engines sound good and crisp, and they sound about like I would expect them to. I guess they're not exactly 100% perfect, but they're good. I have no complaints with that. When you get tires squealing too, if you spin, that sounds really, really impressive. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the game. It's actually a good tire squeal, unlike NASCAR Heat Evolution or anything like that. I mean, the sound design in this game is so much better than any NASCAR game, I think, console-wise, we have. And I think that's a real plus for it. The spotter, Freddie Kraft is the spotter, and when the game first released, it was bad. He was very bad. He would rap. He would literally not even say a full sentence. He would be like 1 2 1 1 1 1 2 tweet, you know, and you couldn't understand him. And I think he still talks too much. But there's a few examples on my channel of him giving me a lot of information when I'm top of 3, and I would say 90% of it is accurate. Occasionally he'll say clear when you're not clear, but I think at the moment, after patch number 2, that it's pretty good, honestly. They've really tightened it up, and I don't think it's that bad. Aside from that, I mean, the soundtrack for the game is okay. I mean, there's a good mix of things. I'm honestly tired of hearing Luke Combs when it comes to NASCAR. And the intro song, What We Came to Do, if I never heard that again, I would already have heard it too much. It's I don't want to hear this song ever again. Aside from that, I can't really think of too much when it comes to sound. I mean, it's everything that needs to sound good sounds good. Implementing the sound in game does have its problems. There's a lot of times where I will be driving, whether it be in roof cam, cockpit, or whatever, and I won't hear my engine. And it's like it just disappears. And that's really weird. When the sound design works, it's good, but like when you have these bugs, it's not. And a lot of times, especially at road courses, or off the start of the race, I will be going up through the gears or whatever, and I'll have cars around me, and I cannot hear my own engine. The cars around me are so loud, and I haven't messed with any of the settings, that I can't hear my own engine, and a lot of times I'll forget to manually shift, and that's not good. They need to maybe tone those down and tone your own engine up or something, because it's frankly not very good, and it's a hassle, to be honest. It's not necessary for you not to be able to hear your own car, and it's just very loud. So they need to get that tightened up for sure. But I think that's all I got for sound. Let's move on to presentation next. So presentation-wise, before every race, qualifying session, or practice, Alex Hayden from MRN will come on, and he will give a good 30-second to maybe a minute or two just rundown of what's happening and the track you're at and just all sorts of things like that. And it's actually pretty good. What they show behind it is very good. They have drivers getting interviewed. They have all the cars and everybody on pit road. But it gets repetitive, and I don't know how you can help that. It's just essentially like the same cutscene every time with a different driver and different cars, and I can see where it gets repetitive. I mean, a lot of people now are just essentially skipping it because they don't want to see it anymore because they've seen it so many times. I still think it's good, and for my career mode stuff, I don't skip it. And I think it's good. Maybe they can add on some more to it, but I think you're just going to have that. But it's fine, especially if you're doing like a career mode and you're racing at a track for like the 4th time and you get the same cutscene. I mean, yes, that's frustrating and you're just going to skip it, but I think for now it's decent and it suffices the game. Now, aside from that, the presentation-wise, the career mode and stuff like that, and the menus, everything just needs to be kind of polished and given more. The menus and things are very bare. I feel like there just needs to be more. I mean, the menu is very sharp and clean, but it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of substance to it, you know. And the HUD on track, it's very that's actually very sharp and clean, but I mean, there's just just bugs in it that we'll have to get into later. But I think the presentation of this game is very nice. Maybe there could be some more. I think there's a nice post-race celebrations thing where you get the trophy and he gets out of the car and everything. Not every driver is scanned. There's a couple that are in helmets and things like that. But I think for the most part that it's fine. All right, so now let's talk about the modes. There are essentially 3.5 modes here, and I'll explain what I mean. So you have Race Now, just your basic quick race. You can jump in, tinker your settings, the track, car, etc., and go race. I mean, it's been in every NASCAR game since its inception. You can't screw it up, and I don't think they did. But, I mean, it's just there, and, it's a good way to just jump into the game and figure it out. Now, up next, we have the career mode. The career mode is something I was very excited for. They teased that you were going to sign contracts and all different things, and you could have crash clauses, and I thought that we were actually going to have a pretty in-depth career mode. And I'm sad to say that we have been mistaken. So, you can sign contracts unless you have the Champions Edition, and by that I mean you can sign contracts in the Champions Edition, but they're all 36 races long. You sign for a whole season. And you'll be like, well, why is that a problem? Well, it just makes it too easy. So you get to pick which team you start with. And that kind of stinks. I was kind of hoping it was like you could pick, or not pick, but you'd have lower tier options and you'd have to work your way up. And that's not the case. The money portion, like you can negotiate your you can negotiate your contracts, but it doesn't mean anything. Like, the money you earn doesn't matter. So you might as well just get yourself the lowest amount of money and sign with whoever you want if you're negotiating. And there's really just not a lot there. You just go on to the next race. There's no post-race. There's no nothing. You just go to the next race. I mean, at the end of the season, nothing happens. There's no congratulations, you're the champion. I mean, nothing. And it's just frustrating. There needs to be more. When you drive for a car, it doesn't delete their name rail or anything. You're still driving like I'm driving the 16, and my car still says Cats Gralla on it, and the back name rail says Gralla, and it really ruins the immersion. At least NASCAR Heat finally got that right. Aside from that, there's nothing. There is, I mean, the stats they have are actually very well done. It's probably the most stats we've had in a game since EA, and I'm very happy about it. It's nice and it's very clean and it's laid out perfectly, and there's it's just perfect. But stats don't make a career mode. There's also a legacy leaderboard, which has essentially you earn legacy as you race, and you can go up the rankings, and that's pretty cool too. And they have everybody ranked, even drivers that aren't in the game. I guess they are, but you can't, like they're Xfinity and truck drivers. Also, which leads me into there is a silly season in this game, but it's not drivers changing cars, it is people retiring and they get taken. So like Kevin Harvick will retire and Riley Herbst will take his car, or Brendan Gaughan will retire and Landon Castle will take his car. I've seen Landon get the 62 about every time. I don't know if these are all dead set or if it's random. I honestly haven't made it that far in career mode. I've just seen videos, so that I'm not sure of. You'll just have to wait and see for yourself. But aside from that, that's it. I mean, it's just a glorified championship season mode with stats, and that's kind of disappointing. It's got to get better for next year. After that, we have online. And so I've played online, and the big thing here is there is no private lobbies. You pick between Shake and Bake and Bump and Run. Shake and Bake are intermediate tracks and super speedways, and Bump and Run is short tracks and road courses. Now, for the most part, this is okay if you're just jumping in. I've done it, and it takes a little bit too long to get into a race. You have to pick your car at the start, and when you get done with the race, you're just propped back to the main menu, and you have to do it all over again. You can make parties, but you get kicked out of them. You can't run your own races together since there are no private lobbies. And it's just weird because there's 2 options and then a random track, and you get to pick. And examples like Nashville is on the Shake and Bake lobby, which makes no sense because I wouldn't even consider it an intermediate track or a short track. If I want to run a big track, I don't want to run Nashville. So I know it's called Nashville Super Speedway, but I just don't. It is what it is. But when you get online, I mean, like I said, there's no private lobby, so leagues don't exist. And racing with your friends is extremely hard since you have to pop back out every time, and it's really frustrating. When you get on the track, though, it's actually good. I have experienced hardly any lag. The bubble is non-existent, and the races go really well, honestly. If you can get a good group of people together, you can do some great races, and I had a lot of fun doing that. But it's just the fact that there's no way to control trolls in here. You can't kick anybody out of the lobby. They go backwards, and there's no ghosting system, and there's just no way to combat trolls. So you got to hope that you can get with people that aren't going to wreck you. And for the most part, I only maybe had 1 race where that wasn't the case. I don't know why people waste their time doing that, but it is what it is. Things like that have to be fixed, and ultimately they make the game not fun. So aside from that, the last mode, if you want to call it that, is Paint Booth. They have been praising this paint booth ever since they announced the game. And it's good. It's a good paint booth. There's no letter system here, and it's very hard to make logos. Like, you have to make one on the car, and then you can stamp it. And it's frustrating. But aside from that, maybe things that they can fix, it's good. It's good. Maybe not to the Technics level, but it's good. And it's the problem here is you can only use it in race now. You can't use it in your career mode. You can't even race it online, which is, what's the point? Why would I spend 4 hours making a car and then only want to do it in race now? I would want to show it off online or run it in my career mode. It's things like that. Even though NASCAR Heat did not have a real paint booth, the custom cars you created, you could at least run in like everything. So it just doesn't make any sense. And frankly, it's kind of embarrassing that only you can run your paint on Race Now. So here we go, the big portion of this, the gameplay. Now, I'm sure you've seen bugs galore, and that's fair. You've seen crashes galore, and that's fair. I've experienced a lot of crashing on console and PC. But the gameplay, the core gameplay, when it works, is good. Now, we'll get the most of the bad out of the way. Cautions don't work right now. I mean, they do, but they don't. They come out whenever they want to. They're very sporadic, and it's just bad. Stages aren't in the game at all, so there's no point. And if they were, it'd probably be even worse because cautions break the game. You'll have a caution, and it'll just put you in a random spot after a pit stop. Sometimes you won't even get to do your pit stop, or you'll get lagged out, and the game will crash after a pit stop. And it's really bad. There's bugs and just stupid things, like if you're on the hardest damage modifier, you scrape the wall, you have a tire down. And they've taken the hardest damage setting off because apparently it breaks the game. There's other things, like on console, majority this happens is they'll have a lag, and then they'll speed boost up, and they'll crash your car. It's one of the most crazy things I've ever seen. Literally, you will slow down, and all the cars behind you will speed up, and it's just a giant crash. It's bad. It's really bad. I can't think of too many other bugs really off the top of my head. Like, this game launched for consoles and PC, you could not turn steering assist off unless you were on a wheel. And it's difficult to run with the steering assist off, but the option needed to be there. Thankfully, it's been fixed in a patch, but it's unnecessary. The low steering setting seems to be worse than the medium. I run on the medium if I run it. The low if a car gets around you, it jerks your car to the right or the left. It doesn't make any sense. And it's impossible to drive. On medium, you have a good happy medium. But it's frustrating for short tracks and road courses because you just want to be able to control the car the way you want to control it. And it's really frustrating. Now, when you run these races, you really can't run anything more than a 15% because, one, stages aren't in the game. And if you turn on tire wear, the AI will pit randomly. They'll have a caution if a caution comes out, and then they'll pit during the caution, they'll pit right after the caution. Or they'll pit multiple times in a 15% race when they only need to pit one. They'll cost themselves the race for no reason. And it's very frustrating. It doesn't make any sense. And since there's no cautions, once you spin out, you're kind of screwed. And it's impossible to try to run a realistic race. Because I run races maybe 15% to 5% cautions and wear off because I don't want any of these problems. And it's just baffling. And so, speaking of the AI, like, if there's a wreck, they don't avoid it at all. They just plow right into it. Yeah, that could be fixed with cautions, but you'd think they would have a little bit more smarts. A wreck will happen for 4 straight laps, and they'll just keep flying and plowing into it, blocking the track. NASCAR Heat Evolution, I remember specifically times where I would crash, and the AI would literally drive 3 or 4 lanes away from the wreck. Like, I had one where I spun, and an AI car literally jerked the wheel to the right towards the wall, missed the wall and me to avoid the crash. It doesn't make it just, there's no logic with crash avoidance with these, and it's frustrating. But when you get the game, like, so if you're playing on a console, it's just impossible. There's a multitude of bugs. You have to play with the controller. There's only one wheel, last I saw, available for consoles, and it's like a Logitech wheel. And I've heard that it even drives poorly on it. And on PC, there's like 30, 40, 50 wheels. And so, like, when I got the game on release day, I have a Thrustmaster T150. I selected it. It works fine. And then on the latest update, they removed it. I had to search all the Thrustmaster wheels. I tried every single one, and finally one of them works. And it's not even like the Thrustmaster T150 has just been removed. So I had to experiment and find one that worked, and it didn't make any sense that I used my wheel and had to select a different wheel to get it to work. But there are no options either with the wheel. You can't adjust your force feedback, you can't adjust the linearity, the dead zone, or anything. And you're just kind of stuck with how they want you to play it, and it's impossible. And thankfully, my wheel works okay. When I play this game, I play it with a wheel 99% of the time, and it is a load of fun. There are a few things that I have to work around. If you brake hard at road courses, the thing kind of wants to go left or right. But I can work around it, and it's fun. And it's the most fun way to play the game. But most people can't do that. If you have a one type of wheel and a different set of pedals, it won't work unless there's a workaround on PC, which I haven't done because I don't need it. But for other people, that's how it is. You have to work around, edit files to do that. It's baffling to me. So when you're on track, and let's say you've made it past the bugs, you get a lucky race without any bugs, and you're on track. This is where the game shines. If the game holds itself together, it is some of the most fun I've ever had in a NASCAR video game. If you watch my career mode videos, if you watch any of my other videos I put on the channel, I have fun. The AI is very racy. Yes, there's times where they'll kind of go to the apron, they'll clip the grass, or they may run you too tight. But they are very fun and very racy. If you can get that right setting down. Now, a lot of people have complained because extreme difficulty and champion difficulty, you can go from way too easy to way too hard. I found with the wheel, champion difficulty is very, very close. I'll put it on extreme for super speedways because even that can be too easy. The AI will spread out at super speedways, and it makes no sense. 2 or 3 cars can get in a train and pull away from the pack, and this can happen at every track. Honestly, all the intermediate tracks race like pack racing, and so 3 or 4 cars will get away, and then everyone else is stuck in a pack, and you get stuck behind it. And it's frustrating, but that's just the way NASCAR is with this package. I feel like they did as good as they could with this because they have the 2 packages, and I think both of them are represented well. But the 550 horsepower package just kind of stinks in itself, and they just have to do this pack racing. So you could be flat out somewhere and not be able to keep up with the pack. So you have to tone that difficulty down. It's just, I mean, I'm used to this. No NASCAR game I think has gotten the difficulty 100% correct. I feel like maybe it's a little bit worse here, but I've been able to finesse it and get it. But the AI is actually not terrible. They do make stupid mistakes when it comes to pitting and stuff like that and avoiding wrecks. But when you're racing them, they are very fun. And you can go 2, 3, 4 wide a lot. Now, the problem is there is no rear view mirror in this game. None. And that's unbelievable. Every racing game should have a rear view mirror. They put the bubbles underneath you, and depending on where they are on the bottom of the screen, you can tell if a car is inside or outside. But you have to play this game a lot to get used to knowing where they are, and even then, it feels a little weird sometimes, and I've spun myself many times when I thought I was clear. A rear view mirror has to be implemented. It has to be. It needs to be added in. There's no excuse for not having a rear view mirror in a racing game. There's one in cockpit, but you can only see a quarter of it, which is unnecessary. There's the little mirror on the window net portion too that works pretty good, but I don't understand why you can get it in the car but not for every other view. And speaking of views, there's a multitude: far chase, roof cam, hood cam, and 2 cockpit cams. They're all great. I enjoy all of them. I think they're no complaints. There just needs to be a rear view mirror. Now, there are glitches with all sorts of things like career mode, where you can get signed contracts that aren't 36 races, and you could get stuck missing a race because the contract isn't signed yet and you won't make the playoffs. Like, someone has got in a continuous loop where they've done that. And there's bugs loading in, there's bugs everywhere. And this game would be so much better if these bugs were toned down. And there's just no excuse for pushing this game out so fast. It's fun. There's a shell here that is the most fun NASCAR game I've ever played, but just the lack of common sense with a lot of these things is just baffling. No mirror, the career mode being so bare, not using paint booth for everything, and I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but there's just so much wrong with this game fundamentally that it's just hard to remember everything. But like I said, I've had fun. This is some of the most fun I've ever had when the game doesn't explode. So I'm just very conflicted. There's no excusing a game coming out like this. There's just not. And it's just frustrating that's what we're dealing with right now. Motorsport games lost a lot of goodwill with this release, and it just sucks because there's a good NASCAR game here. There really is, but the wheel support, you can't remap buttons. It's just baffling. It's baffling. And there's more DLC for paint schemes coming. And like, I do feel for the people that spent $90 on this. I've spent $200 on 3 copies of this, and I'm lucky because it's worked out because I've made my money back just from gameplay alone on YouTube. So it's okay, but I do feel for the people that saved up for one NASCAR game and this is what they get. There's a lot of work right now that needs to be done on this game. I know there's another patch coming, but if I had to tell you right now, if you're getting this on consoles, don't. Wait for another patch. See if it helps. The game is playable, barely. Maybe if you could get it for like on sale for $20 or less, I mean, it's a $20 bill. Throw it out there and go have fun with it if you can do that. But I would hold off. Maybe wait for another patch or 2 and see what happens. On PC, if you've got a really good PC and a wheel that will work, you can find this game on other sites for really cheap. I don't know how a lot of you feel about that if you're not supporting the developer, but maybe some of you don't want to support the developer. But for $60, it's a hard thing to say. I would probably say no, but if you're a hardcore NASCAR fan and you've seen the good gameplay and you're like me and you know that you can work your way through it, then buy it. I'm having fun.
Yeah, there are bugs, and I've been lucky. I have not had near amount the bugs of other people, or glitches, or crashes, or whatever. I have had mainly positive things to say. I mean, yeah, no caution sucks, no stages suck, and a bare bones career and everything, but I'm having fun when the game's working. So it's just going to be up to you. This game is a solid 4 out of 10 if we're lucky right now. And I don't really care for scores, to be honest. It's just you need to wait until this game gets better if you're going to buy it. So that's pretty much it, guys. I've been rambling for half an hour now. If you've stuck around this long, thank you so much. I appreciate any support this channel gets. It's been a great month of content for me. This game has provided much content and many subscribers and lots of views, and it's really helped me out financially. Thank you all for the support. It's meant the world to me. Maybe we can hit 3,000 subscribers soon. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. And in the comments, we can have a conversation. I'm not afraid to face criticism, unless you just say I suck at the game, or you want to talk about how I rambled for 30 minutes and said nothing. I mean, I'm doing the best I can. So, anyway, guys, thank you so much for the support. I hope you enjoyed me talking for 30 minutes on this game. More of it's coming. So, guys, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.